Welcome to CF 2.0 Geek Out, where we deep dive into ClickFunnels 2.0 and how to use it to grow your funnel building business.
Hey, I'm Susan.
And I'm Andrea.
Come along with us as we learn and discover how to use the new ClickFunnels and how to make it bend to our will. Hello, everybody. Welcome to CF 2.0 Geek Out. We have me, Susan, Andrea on this side of our screen, Dan Havey joining us today. We're going to continue the conversation that we started last week with brand styles. We talked a lot about creating a brand style guide, both for just general purposes of your business, but then how that gets used in CF 2.0. What are the things that you're going to be able to set in the new feature that we have not previously had in ClickFunnels, but will have in 2.0, of being able to create a style in your account, which just automatically gets applied to all of the pages that you create, which is really, really cool. Probably my favorite thing that I have seen so far. So today we're going to continue that conversation and talk about like, okay, if I'm wanting my page to have a certain look to it, some of that, it's not natively in the ClickFunnels 1.0. You're not able to just do some of those things that we're wanting to do a lot of the times. And so we have to use some CSS code. But what we want to talk about today is like, okay, some of those cool things that we like to do in 1.0, is it going to be easier in 2.0? Are we still going to have to use code in 2.0, or are they building features in and settings in that's going to make that just easy for everyone to do without code? So, did I sum all of that up to everyone's satisfaction?
You did, yes.
Okay.
I think you did a great job.
All right, I'm going to keep my eye on the comments. We have, if you're here, say hello. We have Charmin. I apologize if I'm saying your name wrong, but welcome. Glad to have you here. All right, so I know we're going to do some screen sharing, and I guess...
Do I need to share my screen again?
I was going to say, like, okay, I actually want to do like a quick... Let me share my screen really quick.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go. Yeah, because last week I was showing a lot of one of my clients' page, and there were some cool things on there that even Dan was in the comments like teasing, like, how do we do that? Like full well knowing how we do it, but
I have no idea how you did it.
So I'm just gonna show that again, and let me make sure I have it up, and then we can talk about like, okay, how do we do these things? And again, just a quick reminder, we can't show you the back end of 2.0, but we're going to do our best to just tell you what we're seeing. But we can show you the front end, and also we'll talk about 1.0 as well. So, all right, let me share this. You guys should be able to see that now. Yeah, okay, making sure. Okay, so I'm just going to go through this page and point out some things that I needed to kind of custom with CSS code on this page. And then maybe we can talk about like, okay, how are we accomplishing that? And then what is 2.0 going to look like? And then anything that I don't point out, we can talk about after. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds
good.
Okay, all right.
Now, just to point out to people and to be clear, this is built on 1.0, not on 2.0.
Yes,
okay.
Thank you, Dan. This is 1.0. We cannot build funnels on 2.0 yet anyway. Okay, so things that required CSS to make happen. Well, first of all, this whole thing right here is already bold. So out of the box natively in the settings of ClickFunnels 1.0, you can do like a separate color for your bold versus a different color for your non-bold. So you have your regular font weight color, and then you have your bold font weight color, but you can see like all of this is bold. So I had to use some code to make this happen, to make this word a separate color. And then this also is obviously a different color, different font. So those are two things.
Now, my first question would be,
yes.
Is that font that you're using there for the general, is that a built-in font in ClickFunnels, or is that a custom font you put in?
It is a custom font that I loaded in.
Okay.
So
in order to put in a custom font in 1.0, you have to go out and you have to find a font file of some sort, which then basically gives the definition. It's an external link. It'll go out, it'll grab that definition, it'll pull it in on page load, and then you'll be able to put the font on your screen using the font family property in CSS. Now, there's 3 or 4 different ways of doing it, so we're not going to go into that right now. I have like 3 videos already shot on how to do it, because whether it's an Adobe font or it's a typeface font or something else, you do them differently. And in each case, you can usually do it 2 different ways. One where you put in the header code, one where you put into the CSS. So it's kind of complicated. In 2.0, we don't know yet for sure, but it appears as though you're going to be able to just upload your font files into 2.0 and then be able to use them on the fly. But we're not sure about that yet, which that would really be something cool, because fonts are really a pain in the ass to work with.
They are.
Yeah.
Now, a couple more questions I have. So like the word profitable, how did you get that to be a different color when everything is already bold?
Right. And I don't know, would you think it would be a good idea for me to just open up this page editor?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. I'm pulling it
Not
up.
top secret. I've shown this trick. To a lot of people.
Time wise, I'm like, should I just go into this?
Well, I can tell you how to
basically, yeah. I was gonna say what I used is probably, I don't know, there might be another way, but I used the strike. Right. Well, I don't even know what that's called. You know when you put a strike through your word?
It's a text decoration is what
yes,
it's
thank you.
Yeah, it's a CSS text decoration property.
Yeah.
But what is you go in there, and just like you would, you're going to italicize it or whatever, you highlight it, you say strike through, then you go into the CSS code and you specifically identify that part of that element that has a strike through it, and then you say, okay, change the color. And then because it's got the strike through it, you got to get rid of that, so you just say text decoration of none, and it takes out the strike, and then it just leaves it there, and it's perfect. So it's 2 lines of CSS in order to be able to do that. So you can make it any color you want, or as you can see down further, she made it a different font even. So where it says quit right there, that's a different font family. So again, the same thing, you put the strike through it, then you say font family or whatever. Well, I guess in this case here, you can't do the strike twice. Well, actually, you could do the strike twice. You could do the strike twice, and then you'd have to do first of type and then second of type. Or first of type 1, first second, or whatever. It's a pseudo class that you have to use.
This might look messy. I'm not a coder, but I have a few of these happening on this page. So one of them is just for these 2 elements. I have it just changing the font family. This one, actually, no, that's not a strike through. Hold on, this one.
Well, the top one there, line 17 through 19, that's just setting the font on a text element.
Yeah.
Okay,
here's
21
the
through 23 is where she put a strike in there, and then she changed the text decoration of none, and then she changed the color. And then below here is where, below there's where you change the font family. Yeah.
And so I've got that happening. So it's just 2 different bits of code there.
You must have used 2 different headlines. You must have used 2 different headlines.
Yeah, because there's different element.
Okay, well, that makes sense. If you use 2 different headline elements to make up that one singular looking headline, then you don't have to deal with any pseudo classes.
Yeah, you see
here.
So
you got 2 different headlines. Okay, that's a lot
That's
easier.
Why you're confused. You're like, wait a minute. Yeah.
Plus, you need a different line height anyway for that bottom one in order to get the word quit in there.
Yeah. Well, and just to make sure too that people, because I think a lot of people, Dan, if they haven't been watching you, right, like one of the key things is, Susan, can you go to like the CSS title and name, or I'm sorry, on the element, on the element,
any one of these
hashtag,
I gotta move zoom out of the way for them. Okay.
So this is one thing in 2.0, right? That's like they made it a lot easier.
Where did that go? There we go.
So the CSS information, right? There's always this process of like clicking on the element, clicking on the hashtag, and then having to address here, knowing what the title and the selector is, and then copying it. One thing that I love in the 2.0 is that it's all right there on the screen, and it's super easy to just grab and see. That is
Oh
one thing
yeah, like
that
so
we
you're
love.
saying, okay, so here's our typical process when we're doing this. It's like, okay, I got to go into CSS. I'm going to drop my bit of code in that I want to be using because I am a copy paster. I don't have it in my head, so I just keep swipe files saved in my Google Drive of like, okay, this is my code for that. And so then I have to do that. But then I'm like, okay, now I have to go get my CSS ID. So now I got to close this and I'm going to have to go to my element and then I have to go over to here and it's like a lot of clicking and then I got to copy this, then I got to go back to CSS and then find where that one was at, paste that in there. And what Andrea is saying is like, I think it's showing up in the bottom now, right? Like
not only is the data title, you don't even have to click into CSS anymore.
Yeah.
It's all right there on the bottom.
Everything
so
is there.
It's amazing. Yeah. Like you don't have to do all this go everywhere thing.
Well, at the top of every element in 2.0, there's a little symbol up there. It's little carrots with a slash in the middle. You click on that, it opens up the CSS for that element at the bottom of the page. So it's all right there on the same page. And so in there is where you then have your unique identifier for that element. And again, in 2.0, they don't use IDs, they only use classes. So every single element on the page will be assigned its own unique class. So it essentially works exactly the same as an ID.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
You were saying like on like where we get this little menu here on our element, there's another
there would
button.
Be the little, yeah, and then it just opens it up as a strip along the bottom. Now, the only thing there is that if you want to give that element an attribute of any sort, like a data title, like we would do in 1.0, then you do have to go into the sidebar editor, and then you got to go to advanced, and then in there you can add a custom attribute. But the nice thing about that is it doesn't have to be a data title attribute. It could be any attribute that you wanted to put in there. I would guess even including a style attribute if you wanted to. So you could actually build inline CSS right there in that attribute. I haven't tested it yet. I just thought of that. And I probably kind of lost you guys on that one.
We're getting really, really geeky out. I actually was a little distracted because I was thinking about buttons. I'm jumping ahead to buttons now because I'm excited about the buttons in 2.0.
Yes.
But are we ready to move on? Like, are we like those two things we've talked about? Everything.
Now, is that
all regular?
In the upper right hand corner? That's just a logo, isn't it? Or is that
this
actual?
Is just a logo.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a
but
image.
Again, it could, with what we were just talking about there, it could be done with text.
It could, yeah.
If you had those two fonts, yeah.
Yep, you just, I don't know how you would accomplish this, but her gold right here is like a textured gold. So
well,
I
yeah,
don't really know how you would do that.
We couldn't get quite that. Well, actually, no, that isn't true because you could actually make the color of any text. You could actually make it an image. So you could take text and you can make the background of the text an image, not the background of it, but the actual text elements, the letters themselves. Yeah. You could actually infill them with an image.
That's something I haven't done before. That's cool.
Yeah. And again, that's not something that can be done in 2.0. So 2.0 is going to give us a few of the minor things that are like the big headaches, which is borders and shadows and stuff like that. But when we're getting into the real tricky stuff, like I just mentioned, that you still can't do that. It still has to be CSS.
Yeah. So like these things that we've talked about so far, you're still going to need to use CSS to do these. I haven't seen anything to show us otherwise. And
with your button down there with the fancy little, well, actually, it's okay. Must only be, well, it's not moving on here because you got to be on the live page to have it moving.
Oh yeah. The glimmer.
Yeah, because it's using what is known as a keyframe. And so how they build those normally, I mean, you got this from Justin, right?
Yes. Shout out to Justin Searcy. This glimmer
style box. Yeah.
Style box. Okay. CF style box. Yeah. How they normally do that is you create a gradient that is like twice the width of the button. And then what it does is that whole gradient just moves back and forth. So that shiny swoosh in the middle is just part of the gradient like this through the middle. And then this whole thing just moves back and forth on a set timer. And that's known as a keyframe.
That's cool. I need to learn keyframes because everything I've been asking about lately, you're like, oh yeah, you just use a keyframe for that.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh no,
okay.
it's really they're so cool to use for animations. They really
Dan, will you have keyframes in your coding course?
Oh, of course.
I'm
See,
doing a
I
plug
just
for
need to
you.
go
That was a
watch it.
T-ball. Come on, man.
Knock it out of the park. Yes. I
Yes,
haven't
Andrea,
filmed.
I
I
will.
haven't filmed that yet. Let me see. Here's just one of my many lists of things I still have to do for the course.
Was that a few episodes back we were going over Steve Larson's hub, and Dan pointed out like this moving pig here is also using keyframes. That was right, Dan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
that
all it
one
does
and
is so they got an
this one down
image
here.
and it says as this keyframe is going along, you know, tilt it this way a little bit and then maybe pop it up a little bit and tilt it back this way. And so it looks like it's bebopping around, but it's just each keyframe says move it a little bit.
Yeah.
And because you do transitions between the keyframes, it'll move, it won't just jerk there. It'll, you know, move slowly from one to the next over, you know, split second.
Which is interesting because in 2.0, right, they're giving us a little bit more animation. Like we saw it on the Dan Kennedy funnel or the page, you know, that there's some animation, but it's like, if I really want to customize or control what that animation is doing, instead of just like standard out of the box, you know, yeah, understanding that is important.
What was
Wait,
that?
What's that?
That's not what I want. What's the site for the Dan Kennedy offer?
I don't
I
know
was
if
just
they
going to
still
try to get to it from here.
No BS.
Let me look it up here.
Yeah, it's not popping up in my history.
Magneticmarketing.com.
Ah, that's it. So in 1.0, we do have the ability in the settings to have images like moving in and out and doing all these kind of that we just saw for him. No, it's not going to do it again.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's under animations, whether it's 2.0 or 1.0.
Having these things slide in. So these things you can already do in 1.0. I just don't ever do it because it's just, I just find it irritating.
Yeah, it is.
Especially when it keeps repeating.
The only case I did it years ago, I built a sales page, which I still use. And at the bottom, I had a bunch of testimonials. And so I just have them come as you get to that part of the page, you all just kind of go, they all come in from different directions. That's the only case I've ever used it.
That's cool because you want energy in that area.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Yeah, but on here, basically here and on Russell's hub page, basically every single element is moving and every single thing you hover over, it's moving and expanding. And it's like, okay, guys, that's just overkill. Just too much.
Yeah. Someone really likes that feature. Okay. So buttons, let's talk buttons for a little bit because they're giving us more options for buttons. I think when I first got into funnel design, one of the first things that I noticed and was like hearing from other people is like, oh, you got to use CSS for the button shadows because the preloaded in options for button shadows are just horrible. Like I was hearing that all over the place. It was so random, like that was the thing people were focusing on. So this is the shadow is CSS because I think what they give us like 5 or 6 options in 1.0 to select from, something like that.
Which shadow are you referring to?
Actually, let me just talk about this.
The shadow around the button.
There's a very subtle shadow there.
Oh, got it. Okay.
It's there, but it's subtle.
Okay. The glimmer is Cersei's, right?
The glimmer is Cersei's, yeah.
Yeah, I do that too.
I can just come in here and we can look at it. Button box shadows. Oh, it has one selected, but my CSS code is overriding it. Okay, we have more than 5 or 6, but I'm not gonna be able to show them, but those are the options. I don't like any of them. I use
hard shadow a lot, but I don't love it. It's just more of a fix. Yeah,
if I have to just throw something quick together, far shadow is probably the one to pick, right? But in 2.0, I have it pulled up, so I'm gonna just describe it. We have the ability to select the blur. Actually, I could do this because this is normally what I do. Is I do a search first. Actually, I think I have it bookmarked. Box shadow generator. Until Dan showed me like, oh, you can just like do this in the inspect and just create your shadow and then put the code in there. I'm like, oh, that's cool. But this is typically what I do. You can select your blur, you can select your spread and the vertical and the horizontal. So all of these settings plus your shadow color. And I'm looking to make sure there's nothing else. I think that's it. All of these are available in 2.0. So you will be able to create it to look any way that you want to in 2.0, and it's all right there in the settings, which is cool. So no more loading in code for your buttons. It's just there.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
Well, do you guys want to show the result of what we can do in 2.0?
Sure. Do you want to now share? Andrea should be sharing her screen now, right?
I mean, if we're done with the other,
yeah, we
I'm
can
also kind of keeping an eye on the clock too.
I'm making sure that we're going to the right thing.
Okay, so what we're going to do here is Andrea's going to show her screen because we can't show you behind the scenes. So all we can do, so Andrea, refresh your page. All we can do on here is show you a live page. So Andrea has a live page and I'm inside of the editor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some changes, tell you what those changes are, and then Andrea's going to refresh her page. So as they had talked about last week, there are, well, let's just take our border. So let's take a look at our image here first. So in the border image, you get, 3 different borders you can preset in your theme. So, I mean, what do they call that in general? What do they call that section in where you set up all your stuff?
The style guide. Yeah.
Style guide,
they're using like 3 different words and I don't know what to call it.
Oh, that's right. That's right. There is, depending on which button you're clicking on. But yeah, so in the style guide, we'll call it that. You can go in there and you can set up all your completely your color palette, your fonts, all that kind of stuff. And so you set all your different colors. So inside of the style guide, Andrea went in and she set up her different palette of colors for the borders. And so I'm going to just turn on the border for the image. And so I just clicked on the first one. So Andrea, refresh your page. Okay. And so now what it's going to show you is the border around that image that was set as her image number 1. And it's not working. Did you reload?
I did. I wonder if I
can try it again. A minute.
Here we go.
So that's one of them, and you see it matches all of her little swooshies all over the screen here. And so then all we have to do is that was style number 1. So now I switched it over to style number 2, and it's saving. And so now try to refresh and see what you come up with.
And the good, when you're saying switching, it's a click of a button. It's not code. So which is awesome.
Yeah, because you've already set those colors as your border and the border width, the whole thing there. And I would guess there's border shadow and all that too. I haven't looked at it for a little while. And then of course we can go in here and we can click on her third one that she put in, and it will be
yellow. Yeah.
Kind of that yellowish, goldish color. But now that's not the only thing we can do. We can also come in and we can put in corners. So you can just turn on the corners, and I'm going to make it, in this case here, I got it 18. And so we can save that. And then we're going to get some corners on there when she refreshes.
Love it, because we embrace curves and blobs.
Yeah. So we got that. And you can do separate corners for each one too. So let me see here, enabled. So I can make each one of these corners completely different.
You get a really misshapen picture.
Yeah, so give it a refresh there
to match those blobs.
You can change all 4 corners independently. And so I mean, we start to get into all kinds of cool stuff here then. And then let me see, those borders, and then we can put a shadow around it. And again, she had 3 preset shadows in here. So let's take a look at that. And so refresh it, Andrea. So now we got that's preset shadow number 1. I'll just click on number 3.
Look how cool that is. One click of a button, no CSS code. Amazing.
Yep. And so give it another try.
I want to point out something too that I think we might all be forgetting. this is all being applied to an image element, right? Our current options, like this may seem, I think it gets forgotten because we can already put borders on things. Like there's border options in the settings. We can put shadows on things. But in the images for 1.0, our options for shadows are 3 options. Our options for border are, do you want a white thumbnail border or do you want a dark thumbnail border? Like those are the options for border. You can't choose your colors for images, which is really strange. And for radius, you can either do a circle or you can do rounded corners. And so like we're very limited on what we can actually do on images in 1.0, which has always boggled my mind. Like, why can I select borders for my columns and my rows and everything, but I can't select a color for my image?
Right. It doesn't make any sense.
All right, Andy, reload it one more time.
Okay. Cool.
Yellow glowy shadow.
Really on fire.
Okay, so now what I did is I went into the text element to the top left, and I said I want my bold in there to be red. And so if you refresh, that'll now be red.
That is not inside the brand guide.
And then let's say we want to put in a link. So the top part's going to be a link, and I will make that go to google.com. And so then we can come in and we can set the link color as well. Okay, it automatically set that to blue. I'm going to change that to, let's make it a greenish color. I don't know why I would, but I did. And so if you save that, now you're going to see that the large call to action is now green, but it's also a clickable link. If you go hover over it, it should, so now it becomes clickable. And as Susan was saying earlier, she wants her clickable links to always have an underline on them. So we will.
That was off recording. So
say that. Yes. Now refresh it, Andrea, and
links
now we'll have an underline underneath it. Just make sure that whenever you're putting in a hyperlink, you put in the hyperlink first, and then you apply any of the decoration to it, the underline, the italics, that kind of stuff, because it'll get wiped out normally when you turn it into a hyperlink.
Oh, and pro tip for all you 1.0ers out there, because I know it's enough to drive me crazy, but if hyperlinks are not, you can only do one manipulation of one hyperlink inside one text element at a given time. So you have to do the hyperlink, click out of it, save it, click back into it, then do the second hyperlink, click out of it, save it, then do the third hyperlink. You can't do it all in one.
Yeah.
Okay, that may be, I've probably never tried to put 2 links in a text.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, all right. And then let's just take a look at the button here real quick. Same thing as before. Button action. Okay, yeah, so you got your same button actions as you would before. You can submit the form, you can open the pop-up, you can do all that kind of stuff. I can change the size of it if I wanted to, but let me see what I'm looking for here. Okay, so we got button style. So I'll click on one of Andrea's pre-made button styles. We can put in an icon before it and an icon after it. And how come I'm not seeing? Oh, I see. We got the override. Let me see here, the typography.
For the presets, you've got like where it says style and it says 1, 2, 3, and then right above the override. So if you're trying to select one of her presets.
Corners. Okay. For some reason, the border is not.
Oh, you have to. Is it grayed out for you?
Border's not working at all on the button. Huh.
Do you have it enabled? There's like a little slider next to it.
Yeah, I got it turned on. Yeah, so the border's not working. Well, let's save it and let's see if it works, comes up on the live. All right, so refresh your page, Andrea. So yeah, so a lot of the stuff that should have been built into 1.0, and you know, some of the guys have tried to build. It's not working either. Let me save it again. Let me pop out of here. Nope, it's definitely saved.
Increase your stroke size for your border.
Yeah, it's up to 20.
Oh.
Yeah, so it should be huge, and it's not showing anything over here either. Let me go back in. But again, that's part of the problem, is there's still plenty of glitches inside of 2.0. No doubt about that.
Mine's working in the editor for mine. I haven't tried saving it and looking at it
What
live,
we got?
but it's working.
We got 4 months though, right? 4 months to funnel hacking live.
Yeah.
So I think like pressure's really on.
Well, this point here, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows what or when. I'm certainly not spending a whole lot of time on 2.0 at this point, just because it's just I don't know what it is. So that's why I'm working on my other stuff. And so a lot of what I have in my other training will cover this, and it'll cover stuff that ClickFunnels 2.0 will now have built in, but it's also 1,000 times beyond all that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I think, Dan, too, I mean, one of the biggest things that I got just in taking your courses or working with you is the more that I understand the elements inside of ClickFunnels and just what's happening behind the scenes, the more creativity I can tap into in terms of what's possible. Right. So, but it's like, I almost need to understand and appreciate that those technology, the architecture of it, in order to do the things that I want to do. So.
Well, yeah, and I gotta be honest with you, I've learned so much over the last couple of months as I've been starting to film this class. Like the whole idea with doing the strike through and then using it to change the color. I knew that it worked. I didn't know why.
Yeah.
Now I know why it works.
Yeah.
And because of that, you're right. I can then take that to other elements and do other things that you couldn't do otherwise. Refresh your page, because I got the border to actually work on a different button I put in.
Nice.
So that was one of your pre-built buttons that I just kind of made the corners rounder and made the border bigger.
I was gonna say that is not one of my pre-built ones.
that looks like that hideous color palette that you're using on that thing there. Yeah. Not that I said that out loud or anything.
It's all right.
I'll kill you later. That's fine.
So I think to sum it all up, there's going to be definitely things that you're still going to need to use code for. Some CSS code to stylize your pages, to make them, if you want them fully branded to what you have going on and whatever your brand style guide is, chances are you created something that isn't going to be simple to do in the ClickFunnels settings, 1.0 or 2.0. But 2.0 is going to be like, they're working on it. They already have in there loaded in a lot of new capabilities for design. And we can see that they're trying to add in some more. The custom font ability we're hoping is going to be a little bit simpler. And yeah, so I think that it's going to be easier for a lot of people to have that consistent branded funnel. I think that I feel like after 2.0 was fully out, gone, at least I feel like it should be this way. Gone are going to be the days of just funnel templates that are just like out of the box. Like when you just go and visit somebody's funnel and you're like, oh, they clearly just grabbed one of the templates and they didn't even change anything to even try to make it look like their own. Yeah. I think that I'm sure there's still gonna be people that are doing that, but I think like there's no more excuses after 2.0.
Well,
like you should be branding your stuff to you.
Yeah.
So many of these design gurus out there, they go, okay, we're going to give you this, pack of 20 templates, and you look at them, they're all the same.
I know.
And they all look like each other's look like, because they're all building them in Figma or something like that. And they all look exactly the same. And the other thing with most of them is it's all images.
Yeah.
There's no actual building a funnel. There's no putting in the text elements and putting in the background elements and doing all that. They're building basically a Photoshop image, putting it onto a page and going, here, I just built you a funnel. Yep. No, you didn't. You built me a Photoshop page is what you built me, with a button in it. That's what I got. And so obviously you can tell I'm not a huge fan of those guys. But Andrea, reload your page, because we were talking a minute ago about animations, and you'll see that button. If I did it right, it should come flying up from the bottom. So you got to reload your page. Hello, Andrea.
I've reloaded it 3 times.
Really?
Oh, we haven't seen your mouse moving at all on.
I didn't see
there
anything.
We go. Okay, so
well, that animation didn't work. It was supposed to
Hmm.
bounce in coming up from the bottom, but well, at least I thought it was supposed to. That's what I set it to. It says bounce in on page load from the bottom.
Is it from the bottom of the section or the bottom of the page?
Well, it said bottom. So I guess
Looks like it is coming up, but I'm gonna guess it's
all
from
right.
the
Well, let me
back of the page.
change the animation.
It looks like it's just popping, like
Like,
popping
to see it
in, like
Okay.
loading in. I don't see
Try
it
this
moving
one.
upward.
Fold in should give us something, and I slowed down the animation speed on it too.
It's doing something different. Now it looks
Well,
like it's popping up from the bottom.
okay, it is kind of doing something.
Oh, there it goes. There it goes. Now it's obvious.
Okay, wait.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
there we
folding
go.
up. Okay,
Now
it just
now
needed to catch up.
I slowed it down to 2 seconds even. So okay, so now it's folding up. Okay.
So it's just too fast. But see, we have control over those things now. We don't have those kind of settings in 1.0. There's some button animations, but it's just choose your animation.
Yeah.
There's no
But
speed
I think part of this is now people are going to see this and then they're going to go, oh, well, that's cool. Can I also do this? And then again, you're back to getting into the custom CSS. And in many cases here, see, we never even talk about custom JavaScript because you want to start doing the really, really cool stuff. That's when you need JavaScript on top of it. Like any of the stuff that we build for the membership sites, that 95% of that is JavaScript. It's not necessarily the CSS.
Yeah.
When you start moving entire sections around on the page and animating things and hiding them and showing them, that all takes JavaScript, and that's one more level up. But of course, that will
are we
also
going to be able to learn JavaScript in your course that you have coming up?
Are you going to learn JavaScript? I don't know about you, but I think many of my students will learn JavaScript in my course coming up here. Yes,
I believe in me. I believe in me.
Okay.
I'm gonna correct something that I said earlier because I was like, wait a minute, yeah, I think we can do this. We do have control over speed of animations in 1.0. But we don't have many options as far as like what type of animation. We have fade in with scale, and that's the only options for at least.
Well, yeah, you can also have them. You could have them slide in from the top, bottom, left, and right, and I think that's about it. I know you can.
I'm not seeing that on the image element, but maybe I just have fade in with scale as my options that are showing up, and then on page load or on page scroll.
Well, yeah, click on page load, then you can do fade in.
Oh, yep, you're right.
Left, right,
you're
top,
right.
bottom. And then you have your delay.
The delays.
See, there you have your delay speed, but you don't have the speed of the animation. Whereas in 2.0, you have the delay and the speed. So again, on 1.0, if you wanted to change the speed of the animation, you have to go in with some CSS and then tell it what speed you want to run at. But again, that's one line of CSS. So you can Google that, find it, put in your CSS, and you changed it. And that's really the thing that I'm really stressing in my teaching is learn the words, learn the concepts. Because once you do that, once you understand how this works in general, you can Google it and find the answer. Because everything I'm teaching in my course is online somewhere. It's just when I got started at this, that was the hardest thing I had is I didn't know what words to use. So I didn't know how to ask the question. Now that I know the words, I can type something in, boom, there it is. I see how somebody else did it who's much smarter than me. I figure it out. I put it into CSS. I put it into ClickFunnels because that's the thing is you have to take what you're seeing out there in the real world and then you have to modify it and get it to work within the structure of ClickFunnels. That's the other trick at the end of it. But once you learn the structure of ClickFunnels, then you know how to do it.
All right, let's leave it at that. All right, everybody, thank you for watching live or a replay, and let us know what else you'd like to see in the future. Otherwise, we will be back next Friday with some more stuff, and we'll see if we have anything new in. I think we're going to try to dive into maybe see if anything has changed in the blogging area by then. I think none of us have really messed with that lately, so we'll see. Okay, we'll see you guys next Friday.
You're going to torture us with the blogs. Okay.
Well, that's the only thing, like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of where else could they be making improvements right now. And that's the one that needs the most help. So
we'll see. Okay.
All right. See you, everybody.